18-year-old man who allegedly shot and killed 10, well, he shot and killed 10 people Saturday afternoon in Buffalo, New York, was motivated by hate, authorities said, targeting a supermarket in the heart of a predominantly black community. 11 of the 13 people shot by the white suspect at the Tops Friendly Market were black, officials said. Among the victims, who range from the ages 20 to 86, were people grocery shopping. A heroic former police officer who tried to stop the gunman, and a long-term substitute teacher and taxi driver who took pride in helping people. This was pure evil, Erie County Sheriff John Garcia said, calling the shooting a straight-up racially motivated hate crime from somebody outside of our community. The U.S. Department of Justice is investigating the shooting as a hate crime and act of racially motivated violent extremism, according to Attorney General Merrick Garland. Peyton S. Gendron of Cookland, New York, has been charged with first-degree murder. Erie County District Attorney John Flynn said on the Saturday news release, he's pleaded not guilty because he a hoe, and more charges are expected. Gendron's defense attorney told CNN Tuesday he would not issue a statement now. This been named Peyton Gendron. You know he was a bitch. But when the suspect arrived at the store around 2:30 p.m., he was heavily armed, wearing tactical gear, including a tactical helmet along with a plated armor. Buffalo Police Commissioner Joseph Garmagilla said, and had a camera that was live streaming his actions. He's actually live streaming through his Twitch channel. He used an assault weapon, Flynn said during the news conference. The suspect shot 4 people outside the grocery store, 3 fatally, Flynn said in his news release. When he entered the store, he exchanged fire with an armed security guard, who authorities said was a retired Buffalo police officer. The security guard died of his injuries. The suspect shot 8 more people in the store, 6 of whom died, the release said. Now, it was one white person that he said he was sorry to, that he stepped over and didn't shoot and all that stuff. Confronted by the police, the suspect shooter took off some of his tactical gear and surrendered per Buffalo police, and they didn't shoot him. They took him alive. But we already know that. The suspect's planned to continue his shooting rampage beyond the Top supermarket, saying there was some documentation. He had a whole manifesto laid out of the who, what, where, when, why, and how, what he wanted to do. So, so that's a little quick summary of what happened with that. He was somebody with a documented, really documented, diagnosed mental instability, and he was still able to buy firearms in New York. Now, I saw some article, somebody's talking about how I think people ask questions, and I get it, the emotion, but ask some of the most irrelevant questions. Somebody put up a meme. How can an 18-year-old in New York living with his grandma be able to buy a $5,000 rifle? The motherfucker might have had a job to save this money. Grandma might have gave him his money. He might have had, you never know where the money could come from. Just because he lived with his grandma don't mean he can have $5,000. That's an irrelevant question. The better question would be, black people, how are we going to protect ourselves better moving forward? Because right now, the next day, May 15th, the next day, somebody could have ran up in the Piggly Wiggly here on South Side in Tallahassee and did the same thing, because nothing changed.
And so I do agree that the question is not in this moment very valuable, but I get people asking where the resources came from to get this. But that's like I said, I agree with you. That's not for us as black folk who were targeted. The question has to be, how can we not be soft targets?
Right, because I can't concern myself with where he got the resources from. He got them. So what are we going to do to make sure we're not future victims? Like, hey, I got an idea. Amanda Gorman is going to write a poem.
Well, it's yeah. We talked about that though. It's gonna be a lot of walking.
What are you writing a poem for? Who cares about how is your poem gonna help the family of the victims of this Buffalo shooting? How is your poem gonna help us stay alive? We look, no disrespect to anybody. If you take it like disrespect, whatever. We got a lot of irrelevant occupations out here that we that we put on pedestals. Like, I'm not saying art and poetry don't have its place, but it don't have its place right now. Nobody cares about your poem right now. Okay, nobody cares about your poem.
Well, it has a place in terms of galvanizing the masses and cementing current events into history, but it doesn't have a place in terms of the conversations that need to be had. Because a
And
lot of these things are coming from the perspective of, if people could feel what we feel, or if people could just understand, and that's, to me, that's the mistake right there. You're assuming that they give a damn when
that's
they
the lack of a
consistently show you they don't.
that's the lack of an understanding of how the world really works. The world is really violent. This was another means of maintenance of white supremacy.
And I mean, Buddy, if I'm remembering the same story, Buddy shot his grandma in the face before he left.
So it was beyond that as well. Yes, he targeted black folk, and he meant to target black folk, but he did shoot and kill his grandma.
Well, I don't know if she dead. She
I
might be
think they say
now.
she died. I think
Um,
they say she died.
but I mean, he shot her in the face before he left. Like, he shot her in the face.
Yeah, his grandma.
You know how mad you gotta be, how disgruntled, how out of your non-happy place you gotta be to shoot a motherfucker in the face. And then the video clips, and again, I point everything back to our brother Professor Carlton Jones did a whole show on this shooting, the tactical, the all of that other stuff. And he actually did a really good job breaking it down and summarizing a lot of the things that were going on. So I don't want to kind of repeat what he said, but I do think you should go check out his show. But this is a situation where, I'll say this is a situation where, ever since Trump got elected, I know when the Black Identity Extremist report came out from the FBI, everybody was talking about that. The little known discussion that was also a part of that was there was actually a report on white identity extremists. It wasn't called that, but it was a report on white extremists.
Yeah.
And they were investigating over 1,000 different white extremist groups.
Yeah. And the white domestic terrorism.
Right. And it appears to have done nothing. So this is one of them situations where I agree with what you said earlier. We really got to look at it and figure out, how can we defend ourselves? Because if they're investigating these people, if they're aware of these people, and these people are still given the latitude and the freedom to do what they do, then
Look,
apparently we need to do something else.
the summer killings of black people is right on time. Black people get killed by white folk in the summertime. Well, let me restate that.
It gets publicized.
Right, it gets sensationalized in the news when white people kill black people in the summertime, because it's happening now. It's, I don't know
Even
anything
during
else to
COVID.
say. Yeah, I don't know anything else to say. But how do we defend ourselves better? I hear I hear what everybody else is saying. But to me, it's irrelevant and it's not helping. And it's insane to continue to do the same things over and over and over, and then go back into our communities and do nothing, change nothing, try to put nothing in place to make sure we keep ourselves safe. We keep operating as individuals. Now, of course, we know we speaking on deaf ears for the most part, but I'm just, hell, I got to get up. We got the podcast and I'm getting it off my chest, damn it. But I mean, there's we keep talking about Black Wall Street. What did we do about it? We talk about what happened in Wilmington. What did we do about it? We talk about what happened in Rosewood. What did we do about it? What happened just recently? What happened to George Floyd? What did we do about it? Like, what are we doing about whenever white folk decide that they want to remind us who's in charge? What do we do about it?
We start on the black workout plan.
Start marching and protesting. No, like it has its place, but we use it as the main weapon. So that's like your opponent has a rocket launcher and you run to the fight with a pocket knife. Good luck.
Yeah, I mean the old adage, bringing a knife to a gunfight. I mean, a knife has its place, but not in that place.
Right. Not in the gunfight. Not in the gunfight. It's just crazy to me that we continue to do the same things over and over and over and really and then get mad when the results don't change and get mad and have a nerve to actually be visibly, physically, emotionally, psychologically upset because nothing's changed. Because white people ain't listening to us. Like, stop writing open letters to white people. Stop it. It's not working. It's stupid. You look stupid. You sound stupid writing open letters to people who continue to show you in their actions that they will kill you.
Let's be clear though, and this is my opinion. Like everything I say, unless I got numbers to back me up. People that are writing open letters are not looking for change. They looking for clout. People that are writing poems, people that are all of these things that we do, people that are organizing marches with no additional plans
We're gonna have a
outside of
town hall
walking,
sitting. We're gonna have a town
like
hall meeting. We're gonna talk about the Buffalo.
all of
You
these
live in Jackson,
activities,
Mississippi.
people are looking for clout. They not looking for change. Yeah, they looking for change, but it's change for them. They looking to change the amount of digits on their bank account. They looking to add some commas. They're
That's
looking to change where they live, but they're not looking to change the social situations. And that's part of the problem. And I'm not even saying I don't get it. I understand. You know, when you dealing with lack, it's hard to think about the bigger picture. It's hard to think about, well, how can I make the situation better for everybody and forego just making the situation better for yourself? But that's where culture comes in and all these other things come in. And that's another area where we continue to fail. And we get so caught up in going back to the other stuff, the feelings of everything. If a motherfucker make us feel good, you know what
that
I'm saying? So
feeling good don't keep you safe. We're doing the people who died in Buffalo, who got murdered in Buffalo. We're doing them and everybody else a disjustice and a disservice if we just sit around and worry about making people feel better. We have to take constructive, precise, tactical, strategic action that we can put in place to keep us and our families and our communities safe from terrorists. We know domestic terrorism exists. We've been telling the whole world about white domestic terrorism forever, but yet we still fail to protect ourselves adequately for white domestic terrorism. And I want to know why. Even though I don't really want to know why,
I
but
was
damn it,
gonna
for the
say,
sake of this podcast, I want to know
yeah,
why.
you know why? Because we looking to be rescued, and we don't even take the shit seriously. You would think after what happened in Buffalo that black folk would be a lot more aware of what was going on around them at the grocery store. You would
I can
think,
run up.
right?
I can run up in the Piggly Wiggly. Anybody can run up in the Piggly Wiggly in Tallahassee right now and do damage right now,
Right. You can run into the black community right now,
bruh.
any black neighborhood, and fuck some shit up.
The security guard at the Piggly Wiggly is usually some older, out of weight, out of shape person who's there. And he or she is in the front, in the middle. All you gotta do, come in, bam, blast them, and you got the whole store to yourself.
And ain't nobody, like, again, the question for me becomes, how do we become hardened targets? How do we make it so that it is as
Right,
difficult as possible for
right,
you to do what just happened?
right. And forget the symbolism, forget the moral stuff and all that, trying to make people feel good. Like, look, man, look. You can continue doing that all you want to, but we're going to continue slipping further down the chain as a people. Like it's that behavior, in my opinion, is very unacceptable. They are taking physical action against us, and we want to take moral action or moral responses to what they're doing to try to appeal to their senses and the morality and the humanity in them when they keep showing you that they're terrorists. You don't, so we're gonna say you don't negotiate with terrorists, but you're gonna try to reach them in their heart with art,
And
with suggestions.
and it's crazy too because this is just another Dylan Roof situation all over again. A white person walking into a black environment and sparking off shit on the people in there. And I'm even looking at it like I remember, right, growing up in the hood, right? If a white person walked in there that wasn't familiar, everybody was watching them.
Yep.
Like that's what I remember. Like everybody was watching them. This dude started killing people soon as he got out of the car. Walked in the store and continued killing people.
I've sometimes I think we've forgotten who the enemy was because we've been lulled to sleep by the idea that, like, these ideas, these, how do I want to say it, these inflated ideas of what people believe Dr. King was saying. And so the idea is, we're all supposed to get along. Yes, we are all supposed to get along, but there's a little something called racism and dominance. And your ignorance of history is hindering you from understanding that somebody was always in power. There was always a supreme group of people over another. It's always that's what we talk about in history. Like some of the most famous people and some of the most memorized people in history are because of the dominance and the conquering that they had. We don't talk about Genghis Khan because he was a nice person. We don't talk about Genghis Khan because he helped old ladies across the street or he cut people grass. We talk about Genghis Khan because no other individual conquered as much as the earth as him. That's why we talk about Alexander, because he came in second. And why you think the movie 300 and they talk about the Persian Empire and all these things? The conquest. African empires did not expand and exist without the conquest of other African people. It happened on the continent, it happened outside the continent. This world has been violent. We have been dominated by white people for over 500 years. So the question for us is, what are we gonna damn it do about it? Like what real response are we gonna have for this?
No, because we so busy trying to live in the dream that we and that's the problem, right? Like we should be nice to each other. We should. But what should happen and what will or what does happen are more often than not the same thing. There's this thing called reality. And you can only be in it and change it and affect it when you leave the dream.
We
The truth of the matter is, like you said, racism exists.
It's real.
The world is not a nice place. And don't nobody care that your feelings are hurt. Look, and the crazy part to me is thinking about it. If every store in that community said from now on, we're going to pat down every white person that comes in this store, people would lose their fucking minds. Even black people
We'll lose
would
their
be like,
mind.
"That's wrong.
Yep.
We shouldn't do this. That's extreme. That's going too far. All white people ain't evil." And true, all white people are not evil. And I want to also say that I'm not in no way attacking the victims or the communities. I'm just saying, at some point we've got to do something. But it's true, all white people are not evil. But until I can clearly identify the good ones from the bad ones, I'm going to err on the side of safety.
Look, you could continue with this "we are the world" trope if you want to. You can continue refusing to see the world the way it is if you want to, but you're only harming yourself and future generations if you live long enough to see them. Because all you're doing is just making it easier and easier for those who see you as an enemy to eliminate you and destroy you and neutralize you.
Hey, man, the,
So keep with the bull.
yeah, the
Because
golden
my
rule applies. Treat
my
people
thing
the
with
way
the
they treat
Buffaloes,
you.
my thing with the Buffalo shooting is I hate that it feels like again. It's again, and then and we shouldn't be here. We should we should those people should be alive. One, because the cracker shouldn't have done that. But two, I just wish we would have had something better in place to defend ourselves from a rogue or something. Like Dylan Roof should have been enough for us to be side eyeing any and everybody to make sure that more black people may have firearms and be trained and know how to shoot them. That we're working more as a cohesive unit. We're not working as individuals. We actually value protecting ourselves. And in the act of protecting ourselves, or in the whole spirit and the climate of it, we're not going on social media and showing everybody else our guns and all these things. They're like we're doing what we need to do to make sure that we keep ourselves safe, so something like this doesn't happen again. Now he found easy targets, easy victims, and
Mm-hmm.
took those people out.
Mm-hmm.
So so once again, the question for us is, nobody's happy that this happened, but for Black America or Black people in America, what are we going to do moving forward to keep ourselves safe? And not just as individuals, but as communities and collectives and neighborhoods. What are we going to do? That's all I got
That's
to
the
say about
question.
that. So that's going, let's let that bleed into giving our thoughts about the children who were gunned down in the Uvalde shooting in Texas. Another little fuck boy ran up in the school. Like when I first heard this though, I was like, who shoots up in elementary school? Who got beef with elementary school kids? Yeah, because like when I first heard it was like I was in my office and I'm looking at I'm going to check our YouTube channel and get the video that I got to post that we uploaded and stuff. You pass by the first page and you see the Uvalde shooting and they showing videos of it. And I'm like, hold up, somebody shot up in elementary school. I'm like, am I reading this right? In elementary school? And so when all the evidence and the information come out and we see this little boy, this little teenage boy who's shot up at elementary school. What? What the hell?
Yeah, and the sad part is all of the rumors and things that have come out since talking about. I heard one saying he was a transgendered. I heard another one saying he was an illegal immigrant.
I don't
There
care
are
about
even
none of that.
stories coming out saying, well, this is all of the ways people are trying to spin the narratives. I even heard something saying the elementary schoolers were picking on him and being mean to him, and it's kind of like, so he's a whole teenager getting bullied by 8 year
Fir-
olds.
First of all, why are you in any proximity with elementary school students? Because from my understanding, like even like here in Tallahassee, elementary school students and middle school students don't even get out at the same time. They rarely are interacting because they stack the times. And they stack the
Mm-hmm.
times for a specific reason. So older kids won't be messing with younger kids. So what are you doing on a regular basis that you are finding yourself surrounded by elementary school kids?
And that's again assuming that he actually was interacting with elementary school kids. Like, to be this dude, there was no manifesto. There was no
Well,
statement as to the reasons.
where like, this is saying warning signs were repeatedly mounting in the months before 18-year-old gunmen in Uvalde, Texas opened fire on a classroom of young children and their teachers 4 days ago what will become America's deadliest school shooting in the decade. So they're saying there were warning signs on social
No,
media.
yeah, people knew that he was unstable and something was potentially going to happen with him. But from what I understand, there was no like manifesto
I get
of
what you're
this is
saying.
what I'm going to do, and this is why, and this is what I hope will happen, and this is why I believe this is necessary. So, um, the biggest thing right now is he walked into the door into the school. Somebody had, I guess, propped the door open, and he was able to get into the school that way. And apparently, he was in the school for an hour before police actually engaged him. Part of it was because the police thought that it was a barricaded shooter situation and he had taken hostages. And now the police department is coming under scrutiny for that because he had been shooting. So the moment you hear gunfire, it's no longer a barricaded shooter situation and you're trying to talk somebody down. Now it's an active shooter situation and you're
And you
trying to
trying to
get
get
in the
people out.
building.
Yeah. Get people out of the
So
building and you get in the building.
so there are 911 calls from students in the building that were on the phone with 911 operators while the police were outside. And so there's this whole clusterfuck of a situation for what happened with the police response and why was this person allowed to walk around the school with a gun for an hour shooting people?
How was he able to get into the school?
Well, they
Why?
said somebody left the door propped open.
I mean that, yeah, I can see that. I can
Right,
see that. I can
right.
see that.
I don't know if somebody held the door open for him to get in because I do see that a lot too. The doors are locked. You supposed to ring yourself in. Somebody just hold the door for you, or if somebody actually had the door like propped open for
Yeah.
some reason. But both of them,
Right.
you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? They're not supposed to be happening, but they happen.
So you know me. I the, it, we got all the evidence from what happened. What are the solutions? What are the prevention methods? So
There
I
are
seen
none.
one I seen one post where he had this dad standing out inside in front of his children's school. He volunteered to watch guard at the school. But I'm like, if a gunman came up, he can take you out. You have no protection on you. We don't even you most likely aren't armed because you're on school grounds and
Right.
you're just a dad, you're a volunteer. So you're doing this to make yourself feel good. But
And to get clout.
if it was a realistic situation, you're unarmed.
Look, and this is why I say there are because this is a cultural issue.
Yes.
There are no immediate solutions. People are talking about armed teachers. Teachers, if you're going to arm teachers, you got to train teachers. And we don't want to pay teachers right now. So you're going to put them in a hazard duty situation?
They got to be security as in addition to all that they're doing right now.
Like that teachers didn't sign up to be security guards walking around with pistols and all
Right.
this other shit. So that's then okay. So you say, okay, well, let's put more resource officers and more security on. Well, again, I go back to you don't want to pay for education to begin with. Like the argument could be made that had we spent the last 20, 30 years paying for education, we wouldn't be dealing with schools getting shot up now. That is an argument that could be made.
Yeah.
So then you go into the argument of nobody should be able to buy an assault weapon, which is a completely politically made up term. All right, cool. But that doesn't change from the fact that AR-15s are so popular because they're easy to make, they're easy to mod, and they're easy to like somebody can build
But
an
but the
AR-15.
but my problem with that is the issue is not the gun. It's not the gun, it's the person. And they're saying, well, if they didn't have the the assault rifles, they wouldn't be able to kill as many people. You don't know that much about guns, do you? You
Well, and
clearly
see,
don't know that much about guns.
the whole thing I was getting at, even with that, is even if they, and then there's the criminality aspect of it. Criminals are criminals because they don't follow the law. Like that's step one. Anybody that's gonna go into an elementary school and shoot elementary school
You
students,
think you think they're not gonna get their hands on what they want?
right?
There's an illegal arms market that's happening. How do you
So
stop that? We got gun control. What about people control?
right, and so I get it. I'm actually I support background checks. Should it
I
be
do too.
easy for somebody to get their hands on a weapon? No, it should not be easy. But let's not act like making it harder for people to get their hands on weapons is going to change or fix anything, because it's not. The people that are like, if this dude was dead set on shooting up at elementary school, no amount of laws in the world was gonna stop him
Man,
from getting a gun and shooting up
'cause-
elementary schools.
'cause I was having a mini version of this debate at work, and the lady was like, "Well, if they wouldn't be able to kill as many people, then we would do as much damage without the AR-15s and stuff." I was like, "They got handguns that are machine guns now nobody's talking about. Somebody has to do is get one of those handguns with that drum on the bottom and run up in there. Okay, you take away my AR-15, but I still got an 80 round drum on the bottom of my handgun that I've modified to turn to a machine gun."
And that goes back to the people missing the whole criminality portion of the discussion. Because even if you do make AR-15s illegal, there's still a whole host of modifiable semi-automatic rifles and handguns you could put bump stocks on them, you could put all kinds of things on them to increase the rate of fire and kill people. And even to that, the core issue here is not that he had an assault weapon, it's that he had an hour.
Right.
That like that's the core issue here. You give somebody an hour, they can have a knife and
Right.
they're gonna be able to take out 20,
Because
30 people.
because even the guy with the Buffalo shootings, okay, say he didn't have an AR-15, he was still heavily. First of all, he had armor on that gave him an advantage. He had armor on, and okay, he didn't have an AR-15, but he has a AK-47, or he has one of those modified handguns, and he still comes face to face with the security guard. He still has armor on, but he has one of these modified handguns that's a rocket launcher or a flamethrower, whatever they want to. Because I done seen some stuff on YouTube, and we all have, right? And so he has that weapon that he still has the advantage over the security guard. Even this guy, the Uvalde shooter being in the school without the AR-15, a modified weapon, you still have the advantage. Now the advantage is not as great with when they bring out like the SWAT team and stuff. It's like there's no real advantage other than to be able to bunker yourself and hide, because they have the same type of stuff for the most part. But it's like, if we continue to focus on the weapon and never focus on the people and the culture of people who are creating, because we talk about single mothers, we talk about mothers in a black community when it comes to crime and all these things in the black community. Well, let's start looking at the white women who are birthing these school shooters, these white women who are birthing these mass shooters. What's going on in white culture that white people keep birthing these mass terrorists? It's a cultural issue, like you
Yeah,
said. So, do movies cause violence? Because they try to say video games and rap music. What about the movies? What about the movies? It's like I don't understand how people can be so short sighted and not understand the totality of things when they talk about impact. Like an example I would use is Will Smith saying, "Okay, I'm not going to curse in my raps, but I'm a curse and kill people in my music in my movies." Bitch, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. What are you're not, are you stupid? So you telling me because you don't curse in your songs, you cool, but it's okay, but you have a justification for cursing, having sex, and killing people in your movies. It's still the same art that these same people gonna be consuming. Okay,
Well, I mean,
so
yeah. Go ahead.
no, just so we're gonna only focus on gun control. We're gonna only focus on this specific group of people. We're gonna only focus on this while ignoring all these facts and data that support all these things that contribute to these shooters, to these mass shootings happen. We're just gonna ignore all the stuff and only go with the stuff that we care about as far as how we feel.
Well, yeah,
Y'all
because
ain't serious.
right, because that. I mean, but to go back to your other point, we see that all the time. The Will Smith thing. How many? I can't tell you how many parents I've met that won't let their kids watch movies with cursing in them, but will curse at their kids.
Yeah.
Like I met a lot of those parents,
And you
right?
wonder
Like
why your kids cuss.
right, like are even kids parents who won't let their kids watch movies with violence and hitting and fighting in them, but spank their children.
And
And
tell
I'm a
them to go
big
fight.
advocate of spanking children, so don't even get that twisted. But I'm saying, if you don't want your kids to observe hitting behavior
It's the
and you hit
environment.
them,
It's the environment. Always the environment. The environment your child grows up in is very, 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 very important.
so
So yeah, okay. Because think about it. Think about it. Think about how many people grew up watching the Cosby Show, but their environment was totally different. So yes, they see it on TV, but in their mind, the Cosby's black people who are like the Cosby's aren't realistic. That's not
yeah,
real.
that's not real.
Environment matters.
That and
So
that goes into a whole other conversation
right.
about this concept of acting and behaving and being white that people keep trying to push back on. Um, but that's another conversation.
These
But yeah,
but
like go ahead.
these environments that a lot of these white people are growing up in are environments that turn out to be that produce mass terrorism.
Well, because at the end of the day, they're spurred into action while we're spurred into spurring.
That
You
shit is
know what I'm saying? Like, like that's what it boils down to at the end of the day. When a white person gets fired, and I know a lot of people say he's Hispanic, not white. Look, Hispanic is an ethnicity, and
right. It's not a
more than
race.
half of them identify as white. So that's why I'm saying white. Um, but when white people get riled up into action, when they get spurred up, they go do some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like they seek to make change. And that's one of the benefits of growing up in a community with power is that you actually that you can create change because your community creates change on a daily basis. You have power. Black folk, we don't understand that concept because we grow up in communities that have no power. So we don't know what change
Really
requires.
is. Right. Right.
But but this shooting thing is interesting because it's playing out the same way Sandy Hook did with 10 years ago. With you got the people calling it a false flag. Those people, which Alex Jones is still he just lost his lawsuit over that. And now they're going to court to figure out how much he's gonna have to pay. Um, so you got people saying it's a false flag. You got people saying we need to stop, we need to get rid of guns, video games. It's the same debate happening all over again, with very few people actually sitting down and saying, okay, let's look at everything. Let's put everything on the table. Let's not focus on our favorites or what we
Right.
think it is.
Right.
Let's look at everything and come up with a comprehensive plan for how to reduce the likelihood of this happening again. And a core part of that is going to be conflict resolution, started in the early ages of education and continuing all the way up through adulthood. People are not good with dealing with conflict, whether that be emotional conflict, intellectual conflict, whatever kind of conflict it is. If you get to the point where you pull out a gun and shoot somebody, your conflict resolution skills have failed. And that it's the same thing with a school shooting. Something in this person was conflicted
Yep.
and they didn't know how to deal with that conflict.
Yep. Yep. And it got to be way beyond him being bullied by elementary school
Yeah,
kids,
yeah, yeah.
children he shouldn't even be around.
I
I
don't
had,
even know if that's true. If that
man,
is true, that's some whole shit,
bro. I didn't even know what elementary school kids was doing when I was in high school.
bro. I I'll be honest with you. I don't even think I knew what elementary school kids sounded like in high school. Like I had no interaction with elementary schoolers at all. I used to see them in the neighborhood, but I never got close enough to hear their
Yeah,
voice.
man, we ain't interacting with no elementary school. So whoever, man, come on, go on with that. But this young man, just like the Buffalo show, they some bitch ass boys, and they deserve to get everything that come with them. So prosecute
Well,
their ass to the fullest of the extent.
well, at least this dude actually got killed though.
Yeah,
So
well, that's good.
the cops came in and took him out, but the cops still got some explaining to do. Now, me personally, I don't know. I'm not one that believes that had the cops breached immediately, lives would have been saved. Um, we know he had an hour to pick his targets and do this and do that. I'm not gonna sit here and say that had the cops breached immediately, he wouldn't have just fired off and started shooting all his rounds out.
Right.
So, but the cops do have some explaining to do as to why it took them
So goddamn long
so
to get up
long
in
to
there.
get building.
Yeah.
Especially it's an elementary school. I mean, now again, I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna shut up. I get it from the cop standpoint of, especially like, because we don't know if they heard the shots or not. Um, so we don't know what was going on. I get them being hesitant about storming an elementary school. I get that part. I do. But after 40, after a while, have you
Bitch, you
made
got to do
contact?
something. You got to do
Right.
something. You got to get your
Like,
ass up in there. All right.
like what's going on? Like 45 minutes y'all sat
Hey,
outside? Like, I'm like,
hey,
come on. Like, that's now we
stop
pushing the boundaries of what's,
Stop it. Stop with the
yeah.
boo boo. Get off
So,
the boo boo. Treat it like anywhere else and get your ass up in there and get them kids out of there.
but you know
All
what
right.
else is interesting? And I'm gonna say this and be quiet for real. Everybody's all like, we gotta do something. This can't keep happening. They really up in arms. Like, these white folks is really up in arms, and I don't blame them. Their kids are being killed. How y'all think black people feel? I mean, y'all are killing our kids. Like,
Yeah.
I was listening to NPR, and the lady was like, for those of you that have, this was a psychologist. She said, for those of you that are having trouble with speaking to your children about violence and how to deal with gun violence and confrontation and conflict and those things, we have a helpline set up. And I was thinking to myself, God damn, that's just a day in the life of being a black parent. Talking to your kid about violence, conflict, gun violence, and all that other shit. Like, they got a whole helpline set up for these motherfuckers.
They got organization too. They got real communities too. And they got real resources as a whole too.
Yeah.
They
I
act
was
as
like,
one
this shit
too.
is crazy. This shit
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah.